Hello, welcome everyone to the Spotlight. It is Thursday, May 26th, here in the morning. I'm Jeremy Lambert, joined as always by Stephen Jensen. Jensen, how you doing, buddy?
Doing well. Happy to be starting the day with this show, and we got a lot of good stuff to talk about. A lot of good stuff happened this past week in wrestling, and thank you everyone for joining us. And we got a lot of good response from last week for the early show, so I'm happy with the new time slot. A little programming note right off the top. Next Thursday we'll be live a little earlier. It'll be 8:30 a.m. Every now and then for my shoot job, I'm gonna have to work a little bit early, but that way you're gonna get the show at 9:30 a.m. every Thursday. Every now and then it'll be at 8:30 a.m. So that's the biggest difference you'll ever see. So it's not gonna be like all over the place like it was for the last month or so. Just a heads up, next week's gonna be a little bit earlier, but still right here, same place. And yeah, thanks for joining us today. I'm looking forward to talking about wrestling.
We'll do the special start time like AEW Rampage. We get preempted by or get bumped by the by a Sean Ross Sapp interview. I guess we get bumped by them. My God, clean shaven Connor Casey is in the chat. This profile picture always just look at this. He has such a great beard, and then we get Connor Casey from like 15 years ago, looking fresh out of high school. Jesus, I don't have a new studio. I've got about 5 different studios. You're gonna actually see sort of a new studio in our creators spotlight with Jaychele, where I'm sitting in the kitchen. Right now I'm in the living room. I also have the bedroom, and then I have an office that I don't go to anymore, and I'm working on getting an office in the basement. Guys, it's been a crazy week for me. I don't want to get into personal details, but it's not been the best week of my life. I will say that there's just been a lot going on here, and I've slept about 4 hours, and it's just a lot. All right. It's a lot. It does drive me insane, Connor. It does. Guys, leave a super chat, leave a humper chat. We appreciate all the support. As I mentioned, we have Jaychele Nicole in the creator spotlight a little bit later on, and there is plenty to talk about. And we're going to start with, I could do a show in the kitchen. I actually have because I'm living with the fiance now, there's actually like spices and stuff. Because before when I made deep fried Oreos on like a Twitch stream, not deep fried, air fried Oreos on a Twitch stream. And I had like none of the tools required to like actually do this. Now that I'm actually living with the fiance, we have a lot of the baking tools and everything that is required to do this. Maybe I'll do another cooking stream at some point. Who knows? All right, let's get into the wrestling here. Stephen Jensen, AEW Double or Nothing on Sunday. Headlined by CM Punk, headlined by, I guess, Game 7 of the Heat and the Celtics, since they're going to wait to start the main event until after that. But it is headlined by CM Punk against Hangman Page for the AEW World Championship. This is your spotlight, Stephen Jensen, so I'll toss it over to you. Who do you think is going to win this match? And what did you think of that segment last night?
So I really liked the build. I like the dynamic of basically Punk saying this is just business for him, and like he's back in wrestling and he's just trying to win the world title, because like why wouldn't he want to win the world title? Because that's like the main goal when you, I mean, in kayfabe, when you are a wrestler, is like to make money and to win championships. And Hangman is taking a lot more personally, because he feels like which is true, he is a day one AEW guy. He had that long build to win the championship, and I think his title reign has been great. Like I know there's been some like mixed feelings on it. I think it's been fantastic. Like every match I think has been a banger, and he's been a great champion. And I think the major goal of putting this title on Hangman Page was to get the perception of the fan base to be that Hangman Page is on the same level as guys like Kenny Omega and Bryan Danielson and like the tippy top tier talents in AEW. And I think they've accomplished that. And that's also why I think that now is the perfect time to put the belt on CM Punk, because I think the mission has been accomplished with what they needed to do for Hangman. And they've just got such a unique opportunity here with CM Punk, with just the hot streak he's been on since coming into the company, and just the incredible matches and storylines with guys like Darby Allin and Eddie Kingston and MJF. And I mean, it's just been like A tier type stuff that CM Punk's done, just feud after feud after feud. And he's still a very, very, very famous person. I mean, like in especially in comparison to a lot of the people on the AEW roster, CM Punk is just super, super well known, like worldwide and stuff. I think it just makes a lot of sense to put the title on him right now. So I like the dynamic here, because I also think that I thought that heading into this, Hangman was probably going to get booed over CM Punk. Like, if fans were going to choose a side, I thought they were going to choose Punk's side. And it seems to be a bit more kind of in the middle than I expected, which I'm just really interested to see how the fans respond during the match and who winds up winning. But I think the build's been pretty good. And also they had like a week or so where, like, when Hangman was dealing with COVID, like that they couldn't do a couple things probably. So I think given the circumstances, I like the build, I like the dynamic, and I'm really excited for the matchup. What about you?
I'm excited for the match. I think it'll be a very good match. Hangman really hasn't missed as champion, and I'm not sure Punk has really missed since returning either. So I'm sure the match will be great. I don't really have too much doubt about that. The promo segment last night, I like the contrasting dynamic of Punk just being like, it's just business. Like, I'm here just to win the title. And Hangman, making it personal, taking it personal, because there's always been the underlying thing with CM Punk. Eddie Kingston mentioned it. MJF mentioned it. It's like, you are not portraying your real self. Like, this whole happy-go-lucky Punk, and Hangman kind of mentioned something last night where it's like, you say you'll stand up for the workers, but then you don't do that. Like, there's always been the underlying theme of Punk is not portraying his actual self. And Eddie Kingston brought it out of him a little bit when he was talking. MJF didn't bring it out of Punk because MJF was the heel in that scenario, so he had to be the actual dick. But in Hangman, he's trying to bring it out of Punk, but he's not. But that's been the theme with Punk, right? And I think Punk should win because that has to come out. The true CM Punk has to come out. We all know the true CM Punk is a little bit of a prick. And he's very great at that on television. And I think that's why he needs to win this belt, because he needs to win the title. And then he needs to go sort of into what Hangman said, where he said, like, I'm not just fighting for myself. Like, I'm fighting for AEW. I'm defending AEW from you. And Punk needs to win the title and needs to probably go into Forbidden Door as the champion, like the babyface champion and everything. After Forbidden Door is when, assuming that All Out is not, even if it is in Chicago, it doesn't really matter. But after Forbidden Door, I'd make that switch of going from happy-go-lucky CM Punk to like, yeah, I'm here. I came in. I beat all your top guys. I won the title. Like, this is my promotion now, kind of CM Punk, and make him just full on prick CM Punk. That's how I would do it. I want to get your thoughts on, because this was something that Dave Meltzer alluded to. There might be more to Punk and Hangman and real life issues between the two. I don't know if you heard about this, but Meltzer was just basically said, like, if you read into it too much, like, you're probably correct with Hangman. I didn't read into like there being like actual issues between the two. I just, like, to me, it just seemed like wrestling, but apparently people thought that, like, oh, why'd Hangman say that? Oh, he got kind of lost and then was taking like the sort of the personal shots there. And then Meltzer just sort of alluded to, like, yeah, there might be more between these two. Did you pick up on that at all? Like, during this feud and especially last night's promo?
I guess kind of, because I think what AEW does really well is there's kind of like that gray area sometimes where, like, this is throughout all of pro wrestling, but I think AEW just kind of uses it maybe a bit more. And I think like NXT, black and gold version did this quite a bit too and stuff, where like they know how invested the fan base is. So like, if there is something for the fan base to kind of sink their teeth into when it comes to behind the scenes, or even just the two of us knowing kind of like how Punk has rubbed people the wrong way throughout his career and stuff like that. And maybe, and I think there might be real truth to like Hangman being like, I declared I wanted to be AEW World Champion the first time we ever had one of these. The first time we had a press conference, I was talking about being the AEW World Champion. And here I am with that title belt. Great championship run, great build to the title, all this stuff. And we asked CM Punk to join us back then, and he wouldn't. And then we asked CM Punk later on, and he wouldn't do it. And like he eventually joined us, but only once he realized how successful this was. Like this is built off the backs of guys like us. And CM Punk's coming and kind of just reaping the benefits of that. And we've had multiple guys, like you said, like Eddie Kingston being the prime example of kind of putting that out there. Like, yeah, CM Punk comes off like this great, happy-go-lucky, fan favorite guy here, but y'all have never had to deal with him backstage and had to deal with some of the stuff that he kind of, right. Well, we have to deal with as wrestlers around this guy. So I guess I'll put it this way. I didn't really pick up on it while I was watching it, but you saying that, it like, I could put that together and I could see how there could be some real life truth and some real life feelings behind some of the stuff he was saying. I could buy that. Yeah.
So Dave's exact wording or phrasing was he compared it to Brett and HBK, which we all kind of know those stories, and said, the more you know, the more it meant. So again, nothing outright saying like, hey, these two hate each other, but certainly alluding to there is more to this story than just what's happening on television. We'll see if anything more comes out about it, but for right now, that's what Dave is saying. And like sometimes the best rivals, off screen make for the best rivals on screen, and it does add a different layer to the feud, and it does make it more heated. It makes you want to see it more. I already wanted to see this match. I think both guys have done a very good job. JJ mentions that like why didn't they start this after Revolution and build it up for Double or Nothing? They should have. The AEW does this a lot where they start feuds. They either start feuds too late or they drag feuds a little bit too long. That's always been a criticism I've had of AEW. And this one, they probably should have gotten the ball rolling a little bit longer. Hangman missing a week with COVID certainly hurt things. I do think it's been a good feud. And if you look at it from CM Punk's perspective, it's been a story they've been telling since he's gotten back of racking up wins, beating homegrown guys like Darby, like MJF. Eddie Kingston, not really a homegrown guy, certainly, given his run on the independents and all the years he's put into the business. But he's become a face of AEW since the pandemic, and he's become one of the top guys in AEW since he signed. So if you want to kind of like include Kingston as like, hey, Kingston's AEW, like ride or die, like he certainly is. So like these are the guys that CM Punk has beaten, and now he's going on to face the world champion. So like they've been telling that story with CM Punk from the very beginning. So if you want to make it a long-term story in that aspect, I can certainly see how you could do it. I'm going with Punk. I'm going with Punk to win. I think from a story perspective, it makes more sense. I think there's more to do with Punk as champion. It's not that Hangman Page's run has felt like cold or anything. All of his matches have been very good. The Danielson feud was great. The Adam Cole feud, I'll talk a little bit more about Adam Cole when we talk about the Owen tournament. The Adam Cole feud felt a little forced, and I wasn't the biggest fan of that, even though the matches were great. And then the Punk feud has been good, and I expect the match to be very good. But coming off the Omega feud, and this is through no fault of AEW, outside of the Omega feud was top tier stuff, and like from there was really only no way to go but down. Hangman's run has felt a little cold based, if you're going to compare it to the Omega feud. I think Punk is the kind of spark that AEW and the world title needs right now.
Yeah, well, and to your point a second ago too, like, because there was even, I am a huge Lee Moriarty fan, but like he's not, they're still really on the early stages of kind of his progression in AEW. And I remember like CM Punk wrestling him and like struggling, like they've gone for like CM Punk, like really having to like get his feet wet and like really work his way up that card. So like, I think that was a good point that you made too, is like Punk's only been in the company for,
since last August.
Okay, so getting close to around a year.
Yeah.
And it's been a steady, gradual climb to the title, which, and when you come off of a win like he had against MJF and that dog collar match and stuff, like it totally makes sense that he'd be the number one contender. So I have no problem with like his status as the contender for the championship and stuff like that. And when it comes to Hangman, I get what you're saying, and I think a lot of people kind of feel the same way about some of Hangman's run being maybe a little lukewarm. But my thing is, like you just said too, every one of his matches has been a banger. So like
Yeah.
that's all I can really ask for. Like,
Yeah.
you know, and and I think that other layer, you mentioned this earlier too, the Forbidden Door. I just think it makes just too much sense when like this show's going to be in Chicago. You can have the AEW Championship on Punk, and you could go up against one of the top stars of New Japan as like the AEW champion representative and stuff. But I do hope that he turns heel sooner than later. Like I really, really want to see a CM Punk heel turn, and I think it would be incredible if they could get to a point where CM Punk is such a hated heel that we start cheering for MJF to get the title off of him. I think that would be like that'd be like the wildest long-term story I think ever, because that would be like their trilogy match, and like you can have MJF eventually beat Punk for the title, but MJF never really has to turn babyface. He just has to be liked long enough to get the title off of Punk. Then he can go right back to being a heel. But like I just think it'd be an interesting dynamic. But also we don't know the future of MJF, if he'll even be in AEW long term and all that stuff, and if they're going to change plans for him, because he might, AEW might say, hey, if you're not going to sign an extension with us, we're not going to put the world title on you. You know what I mean? Like I don't know what they're going to do with MJF until they get the contract stuff figured out. But and also don't know how much of that is a work either, because I think MJF's putting a lot of it out there into the world as a work, even though I think he is interested in the WWE. I think that he's also interested in staying in AEW. So I don't think it's as much of like a foregone conclusion that he's heading to WWE as everyone thinks. But I think there's also a good chance he winds up there, especially with his link to Cody Rhodes and stuff. He'll have a foot in the door for sure. But regardless, I think it just makes too much sense. It's one of those things where I think AEW will kind of kick themselves if they don't put the title on Punk right now, because it's just the opportunity is just right there in front of them. The stars have aligned. They have the big Chicago Forbidden Door show coming up. CM Punk's on a major hot streak. I think his return to wrestling has gone way better than I thought it would. I mean, I'd imagine it's exceeded the expectations of pretty much anybody, even if you're the biggest CM Punk fan in the world. Just the fact that like he actually came out to like the throwback music against MJF with like the throwback gear and all this stuff. Like he's checking all the boxes for like all the Smart Mark fans that were fans of his back in Ring of Honor and stuff. And like, so I just feel like it just makes way too much sense. And I see people in the chat saying stuff about like Hangman beat Danielson and Hangman beat all these other guys. Like how would Punk beat him? It's just different. Like CM Punk CM Punk beating MJF, I think, was like a real vote of confidence, because they've really, really pushed MJF, and it really seemed like MJF was going to be the next guy in line for a title shot, and Punk beat him, and not to mention also Kingston and also Darby, and like really big matches. So I think it's very possible that Punk wins. And if I'm AEW, put the belt on Punk, even if the belt winds up going back to Hangman at some point. Like I think right now you just need to put the belt on Punk, even if it's just for the short term. Although once again, my perfect scenario would be a decent title run of like 6 to 12 months. MJF beats Punk for the title to finish their whole feud. Like that's, kind of on hold now after the dog collar match, but I do want to see a trilogy really badly still. And I think it'd be really cool to see him be the one to beat Punk for the title. But these are all just scenarios I'm throwing out there. But as far as the short term, sounds like we both got CM Punk winning the title this Sunday.
Full Metal Creed does say, I mean, what's Hangman supposed to do? This run feels hot. He's not going to destroy Corvettes, ride Zambonis weekly. It's not that time anymore. I don't need that. What I need from Hangman Page, and this is not a criticism of Hangman Page at all. All of his matches have been great. I love the Danielson matches. Absolutely love the Danielson matches. The Adam Cole matches were good as well. It's a criticism of he's coming off the Kenny Omega feud. So like anything probably wasn't going to feel as hot. But after the Danielson feud, Cole felt like a very forced challenger, especially after we saw the visual pin of Orange Cassidy defeating Adam Cole. And I know that didn't matter in the rankings, and that was what they told. I thought they could have told the Cole story better with everything. I didn't like that Cole got beat by Orange Cassidy in a lights out match and then went immediately into a feud with the world champion, because that loss didn't count. I didn't like that at all. And then he beat Cole, and then they still did a Texas Death rematch. Lance Archer got a title shot when Lance Archer hadn't beaten anybody. Like I didn't fully like that either. The CM Punk thing, I thought they could have transitioned to that a little bit quicker. Like JJ said, like after Revolution, I thought they could have gotten into that feud a little bit quicker and just told a better story there. What could they have done to make it feel hot? Give me a more credible challenger than Adam Cole coming out of it, or make Adam Cole a more credible challenger. By not having him take that visual loss against Orange Cassidy, get into the CM Punk feud a little bit quicker. Like those were two things. Kind of follow up on the Young Bucks stuff a little bit. I thought that was sort of a missed opportunity. And this is where the Adam Cole feud just didn't feel as hot to me as it could have, because the Bucks were right there and they didn't play enough into that feud as they should have, especially when they gave the little nod to Hangman at Full Gear and the Omega stuff. I thought that feud just could have been better. The story was there for them. I didn't think that feud was as good as it could have been.
Yeah, I and honestly, and this is not AEW's fault, this part of this. I think that a lot of things would have went differently if Omega was back sooner. I think that they really didn't think he was going to be out as long as he is. And I think a lot of these stories have kind of suffered a little bit because of it, because you would have had the whole Omega and Adam Cole dynamic, the whole Adam Cole and the Young Bucks and Hangman and the Young Bucks and Omega and the Young Bucks, like, and where do the Young Bucks side? Like, where there? I mean, I think there's a lot. I think that they will come back to the Hangman, Omega and Young Bucks stuff at some point, though. When Omega's back, he's gonna have to confront the Young Bucks and be like, hey, I've had a lot of time off, and I watched that title match, and like y'all wanted Hangman to beat me, like what's up with that? Like I think that's going to happen. It just hasn't yet because Omega's been off TV for as long as he has. Orange Cassidy, Pile Driver was asking where he's been. Wait, I'm sorry. I thought it was him. Oh no, sorry. August 3rd asked where Orange Cassidy has been. He's been hurt, right? Because he's wearing a sling on his arm. I love Orange Cassidy. I really didn't have a problem with Orange Cassidy beating Adam Cole. I had a problem with Orange Cassidy beating Adam Cole and then Adam Cole getting a title shot right after, like what you said. Like I'm like, Orange Cassidy has been built similarly in a lot of ways to like a Hangman or a Darby or one of those guys where he's like a top tier guy in AEW too. It's just more kind of sporadic. Like he'll get like a huge win over a huge name, and then he'll just kind of be like mid-card best friends for a minute. Then like it'll kind of do it again. But yeah, he's been injured. So that's been, and the timing of that was just terrible because like he beats Adam Cole and we really haven't seen him wrestle like really since, to my knowledge, and maybe a little bit, but I can't really remember anything after him beating Adam Cole. And then Adam Cole's lost 2 title shots since then. Which we'll talk about here. I don't know if you want to transition right into the Owen tournaments, but Adam Cole is.
Yeah, let's get into the Owen tournament. This is my spotlight, is looking at the finals of the Owen tournament. So we have Adam Cole against Samoa Joe, and we have Britt Baker against the winner of Ruby Soho and Chris Statlander. This show has not been aired. It has not been taped. I'm pretty confident saying Ruby Soho is going to beat Chris Statlander to set up Britt and Soho. Are you seeing what I feel like I'm seeing? And that's, we're going to have a Britt and Adam Cole Owen winner. And just, I don't think they're going to go like obnoxious couple like Sammy and Ty. They already have that with Sammy and Ty. And Britt in an interview said like, we don't need to like be together like that. Like everyone knows, like we're together. We can do our own thing. We don't need to be paired together on television. But them winning the Owen and just being like super obnoxious about it, I can 100% see that. I'm fairly confident Adam Cole's beating Samoa Joe. Britt and Ruby could go either way because Britt already has a victory over Ruby, and I think it serves Ruby more than it would Britt. But what are you thinking here for the finals and who wins?
Yeah, I'm with you. And by the way, people mentioning Orange Cassidy got hurt in the casino ladder match. That's right. That was crazy. That was the match where he like climbed, like did like the like somersault up the ladder and stuff. Yeah. That was awesome. I forgot about that. That was awesome. Yeah, I'm with you. I mean, the good thing here is I really don't know who's going to win these tournaments. Like they really, it's been unpredictable in my opinion. I have this gut feeling that Ruby Soho is going to win the whole thing. I've kind of felt that kind of since the beginning of the tournament. So but I don't know. I mean, the thing with Adam Cole and Britt Baker is like they've both been in those top spots. Britt's been the champion, obviously. She was a long-term champ. Adam Cole has had 2 title shots really recently. So it's like, on one hand, Adam Cole winning the Owen keeps him in that spot without having to like be a champion, but it keeps him like way up there on the card, which I think is smart, because I think Adam Cole he's a star. Like, I think he should be featured as a main event level guy consistently. But at the same time, it's like he just had 2 title shots. Like, is this going to lead to another title shot? Now, if it's CM Punk as the champion against Adam Cole, that's something different. But I also don't think that Adam Cole would beat CM Punk. Like, I don't want Adam Cole to become the guy who just like loses every title opportunity, just keeps getting more title shots, but like doesn't win. Like, eventually he's got to win one of these to keep like his perception where it needs to be. So it's tough. It's an interesting tournament, and like interesting participants here at the end, because on like the women's side, like I said, I think that Ruby makes a lot of sense. Personally, I'd like to see Kris Statlander win the entire thing, because I think it would do a lot of good for her career. And I'm a big fan of hers, and I think there's a lot of untapped potential with Statlander. I just don't think that the time is now for her just yet. And they're changing her gimmick and stuff. Like, I know there's big plans for her. I just don't see her winning this whole tournament, unfortunately. But I mean, that's the thing too. You have a lot of opportunity there with Britt and Adam Cole both winning. And then you also have Samoa Joe, who I think they're wanting to keep really strong throughout all of this, but he also has the kind of lingering story with Satnam Singh and Sanjay Dutt and all that stuff, and Jay Lethal like on the side too. And, you know, is this where, you know, those guys help, you know, screw over Samoa Joe basically, and Adam Cole wins or something? I mean, do you overlap these stories? Because yeah, so there's a lot of questions, but that's the thing, is like, that's what makes it exciting and fun as a fan for me, is like, I really don't know. Like, and all these are good options. Like, I think Ruby's super talented. I think Britt's one of the most over women that they've got. And I think that Samoa Joe's one of the best in the world. Adam Cole's one of the best in the world. Like, these are all very viable options to win these tournaments. But as far as like actual predictions, like, I really want to pick Samoa Joe. But I'm also afraid of Adam Cole's perception if like he can't ever win the big one in AEW. Like, it's I don't know. And then like I said, I have a gut feeling about Ruby Soho, but it would make sense for Britt too, because like you got to keep her in that same kind of spot also. Yeah, what were we gonna say?
Oh, I'm fairly confident in Adam Cole. I think there could be a story there if like Cole can't win this, and then once Omega comes back, he's like, you were supposed to take my place. What happened? You didn't win the world title. You didn't win the Owen. Like, what did you actually accomplish? Like, you brought your friends in here. Cool. You guys they didn't win anything. Like, they couldn't win the tag team titles. I think there could be a story there, but then that kind of baby faces Adam Cole. And I think Omega is going to be more of the babyface when he returns. I think he's going to get a big reaction when he returns. So I don't know if that's the story they want to tell, but I do think there is a story there if they want to tell that. I think Adam Cole wins it because he can't just be an obnoxious heel with the title, because apparently they're getting belts. What that belt means, I think it's going to be sort of like Dynamite Diamond Ringish, where he gets it, he'll like have it, but there's going to be no defenses of it or anything. It'll just be bring it back around next year for the tournament. But I think he can be very obnoxious with it. And I do think that like to babyface Omega comes back. Cole's like, I won the Owen, like honored a Canadian. Like, where were you? You know, you're supposed to be Canada's best wrestler and everything. I think you can tell that story as well. Britt and again, I'm assuming Ruby. I think Ruby needs it more. I don't think Britt really needs it, but they love just giving Britt the accolades. They, you know, she is the braggadocious, over the top heel of like, I've done this, and this. So being the first woman to win the Owen is another accolade that they can give her to brag about. And that's what her character has really become. And so that's why I could see Britt winning. I think Ruby just kind of needs it a little bit more. Britt, she's in her spot. She's fine. She's not going anywhere. Ruby fell off after she lost the women's title at the title shot at Arthur Ashe. Like, she wasn't used for a while. She wasn't really involved in anything much outside of pulling Eddie Kingston away from CM Punk. And she finally got her feet back under her in the Owen tournament. I would hate for her to just lose this and just, okay, she's kind of gone again. Like, I think she needs this a little bit more to really solidify herself in the division. Nerd Guru says this is Tony Storm's the win. Britt doesn't need it. Yeah, I'm kind of with that. I thought Tony might have been a better call than Britt as well. Britt really doesn't need it. She doesn't. But like I said, they love just giving her the accolades. And so it ain't going to shock me if she wins this thing.
Yeah. I agree with everything you said. Like, especially the part about Ruby Soho kind of losing some traction after her title feud, and it's so tough. It's tough to make a decision on who I think is going to win these. I mean, when it comes to Wrestle Rumble, I'm going to be all over the place because I've put predictions out there already that like I'm already like going back on and stuff. Like Full Metal Creed mentioned in here. He says that I should chill because like Adam Cole has plenty of time to win the big one. It's not like he's in his late 40s here. I get that, I get that. And I also, he also mentions the Grand Prix championships in MMA, like Pride FC used to have and stuff.
Yeah.
Those are fair points. Full Metal Creed. My thing is really more. I'm a huge Adam Cole fan. He's one of my favorite wrestlers, and I think that no matter how good he is and how much time he still has, it still isn't like the best look to like lose title shot after title shot and then like lose the finals of this tournament and be kind of labeled, because long term he's going to be fine. But like my thing is more short term. Like I think he needs to win some of these big matches right now. That's just my personal opinion, but that's coming from the perspective of like, I'm a big Adam Cole fan. So like I don't think he should have beat Hangman for the title because I think Hangman's the right champion right now, but maybe they should have done it just one time instead of twice. So like they could come back to it later on and like he's only lost the title shot one time. I just don't love the idea of like losing title shot 1, losing title shot 2, losing the finals of the Owen, so on and so forth. And it's like, I just think they should be establishing him winning some of these matches as well.
I think if you try to like look too long term, like I understand Adam Cole is like just entering his prime, and it would be very smart to say like, hey, Adam Cole can win the title down the line, it'll be fine. You never know what's going to change in the wrestling business. All right, it's very possible that Adam Cole gets pushed down the card because here comes Roman Reigns or something. I don't think Roman Reigns is actually leaving, but like nobody thought Cody was leaving. You just never know what is going to change. So sometimes you just got to capitalize on this stuff when you can, and you can come back to it with Adam Cole. You just don't know what's going to change. So like, it's okay to like look long-term when it comes to stuff, but looking too long-term can maybe get you into trouble of not realizing what is in front of you right now.
Yes, I think that's a really good point. And I also think that like, I really hope that the finals of this tournament, of both these tournaments, doesn't wind up being like screw job finishes either, but like I could see it. Like Jamie Hayter could very well turn on Britt Baker and cost her the match, because that's going to happen eventually. Like that feud's gonna happen. It's just a matter of when. This Samoa Joe, Satnam Singh, Sanjay Dutt, Jay Lethal stuff, like that's looming in the background too. I'm just hoping this doesn't affect the winners of these tournaments, because I think they've done a really good job kind of with like the integrity of the tournament and like what this is. And I don't think that like, I don't think that it's the best look to have like these tournaments go as well as they have just for like screw job finishes for the finals. But I could see something like that happen, at least maybe in one of the two matches. I don't know. I'm going to put the prediction out there. I'm going to say Ruby Soho wins the women's tournament. I'm going to stick with Samoa Joe for the men's tournament.
Okay. That's fair. I kind of hope you're right more than I'm right, because I think Ruby deserves it more. Joe, I think that's going to be a screwy finish where Lethal and Undisputed Elite and just a bunch of people kind of get involved on that. Maybe Jonathan Gresham will come out and help Samoa Joe. Joseph Wood says, are you shocked Darby has been left off the card? A little bit. I thought they were setting up an 8-man with O'Reilly, Fish, Young Bucks. This was last week against Sting, Darby, and the Hardys. And then they just went Bucks, and I guess it was 2 weeks ago. And then they just went Bucks and Hardys, which I'm okay with. But it leaves Darby. It seems like Sting is hurt. Like he's missing Fan Fest. I feel like if you're gonna do like a worked injury angle, you're not gonna like pulling the guy off FanFest kind of sucks. So maybe he is like actually hurt. I thought maybe we were gonna get O'Reilly Fish against Sting and Darby. I feel like Darby's gonna have some presence there, but it is surprising that Darby is not on this card.
Yeah, but it does make sense if Sting's hurt that like if they had plans for like a tag team thing and Darby doesn't really fit into like something for a singles match, or they didn't want to like replace Sting in like a big multi-man tag match or something. I get it. As a fan of Darby Allin, I wish he was on the show, but at the same time, AEW's roster is just so ultra stacked that like this happens every pay-per-view where like there's a few big names left off. I mean, like FTR doesn't have a match on the show, right? I mean, so it's like, and they're probably, in my opinion, the Young Bucks are the best tag team in wrestling. But like, I won't argue against FTR. Like, if someone's like FTR is the best tag team in wrestling, I'll be like, yep, totally see the point there. Like, because for me, they're right there. I mean, they're right there with the Young Bucks. So it's like, so the point is, because even when like Cody was in AEW, he wasn't on every pay-per-view and stuff. I mean, like their roster's so stacked. So, and Darby is in a good spot. Like, I wish he would have beat Jeff Hardy in their match. I didn't really like how I thought the match was awesome, but I didn't love how Jeff just ate the coffin drop and then just like no sold it into the crucifix pin. And it was like after the match they had, especially. But it's one of those things that's like, I think Darby, all the pillars, right? Like Darby and Sammy Guevara, and I know Ricky Starks is on the show. Who's the other? Who else?
MJF.
MJF, that's right.
I don't think Starks is technically a pillar. It's
Jungle
that's right.
Boy. Jungle Boy's the other pillar. That's right. Starks came in during the TNT title open challenge. That's right. And I kind of like in Orange Cassidy's kind of in that same kind of boat. You know, the point is all the kind of younger, quote unquote, homegrown talents that AEW has, a lot of them aren't on the show, but like the show's still super stacked. So I don't think the show's going to be worse because Darby isn't on it, but like Darby is one of their top guys regardless. And you know, but I think that once again, I think the point is, I think it was going to be a big multi-man match, like you said. That's what it looked like they were setting up for. But if Sting's hurt, that kind of takes Darby out of the picture for right now too, and that would make sense as to why he isn't on the show.
Yeah, maybe they do something on the pre-show to set something up. I imagine Darby is going to be there in some capacity. Maybe it's a backstage angle, whatever it might be. I feel like he's going to be there and do something in some capacity. Moving on to WWE with a former AEW wrestler. The Cody countdown, Jensen. They did this just for you. Yep. They counted down that Cody was going to wrestle The Miz. Jensen, defend Cody in this match because it wasn't good. It was a rough one.
So when it comes to the Cody countdown, I do appreciate the WWE doing that for me, and I also appreciate that they put him on right after Better Call Saul every week. Also, so like they know because I promise you, and I know it sounds like I'm crazy because like those two worlds are very different, Better Call Saul and WWE Raw, but I'm just saying like the ratings for Better Call Saul are super high and their main demographic is 18 to 49. So it's like, I think there's something there to that to a degree where they're like, hey, the 18 to 49 demo is who wants to watch Cody. The reason they do the countdown is because they're trying to get all of the people who don't watch Raw but like Cody or like AEW to watch Cody. So like they're basically telling you, hey, if you don't want to watch the full 3 hours, we're telling you exactly when Cody's going to be on. And by the way, it's right after Better Call Saul. So all the 18 to 49s can finish that show and then come jump right over and watch Cody. So that all said, I love the countdown because at least I mean, I have no interest in watching Raw for 3 hours at all, but I love knowing when Cody is going to be out because I want to support Cody. So the match though, yeah, it wasn't good. And I don't know who to blame because like the Miz has never been great in the ring, but it never really comes off that bad. And Cody I think is fantastic, but at the same time, like it takes two to tango. I'm not going to sit here and just like blame the Miz for this because that isn't fair. I think I'm just hoping that Vince doesn't sour on Cody because of something like this, where he looks at that and he's like, oh yeah, never mind, this guy can't be the one to beat Roman after something like that. I just really hope that he doesn't get a bad taste in his mouth over that. But I can't imagine that he was like happy about the match, because it was clunky and it just didn't work. I mean, I saw clips on Twitter too that people put together of just the botches and all like the awkwardness, and it was just like for two guys, especially to their level of I mean, both these guys being real veterans. I mean, people can say what they want, but The Miz is a bona fide first ballot WWE Hall of Famer. Like, as far as I'm concerned, like the second he retires, he should go into the Hall of Fame. I think he's been way better than I think people understand for that company, especially given where he came from. And Cody, I consider to be one of the best in the world. So like for this to happen, it was unfortunate, because I do like The Miz and I do like Cody, and I can't really put the blame on one or the other. I think it's both of their doings here. It just didn't work. It wasn't good. And they might have been a little overconfident too, because they're going into it thinking like, how much we really need to prepare for this, right? I mean, we've both been doing this for 20 years.
They should have used their 8 hours to go through the match.
Right, exactly.
Practice it. Maybe they had longer than 8 hours, but they should have done more with their time to practice that match.
Yeah, they should have done something. I mean, see, that's the thing. You would think that the two of them would just hit a home run, because it's two veterans who have known each other forever and know each other's stuff. And for whatever reason, it just wasn't good. And like I said, my only fear coming out of that is Vince seeing that and just like souring on Cody because of it, because they're clearly behind The Miz always. I mean, given the position he's been in the company for so long, they like what The Miz is all about, and they're heavily pushing Cody, and they're letting Cody get away with a lot of stuff that no one else does. I mean, he's still basically promoting AEW on his social media and stuff, when like merchandise drops and like action figures and all this stuff. I mean, like he's getting away with stuff that no one else really. There's wrestlers in WWE afraid to mention other wrestlers in tweets, and Cody's like retweeting his AEW action figures. You know what I mean? Like there's so I. Well, yeah, well, and obviously I have no problem with it, but it's one of those things where like I could see Vince being like, we're giving this guy so much leeway, more than we've ever given anyone, and like, but he can't be putting on performances like this. And especially if we're going to have him beat Roman, like this can't be like, so yeah, it was disappointing. I don't know why it was so bad. I'm a fan of both guys, and for whatever reason, it just didn't click.
I think Cody's come back and he's wrestled mainly Rollins. He's had a couple of other television matches, like against Theory, but he's wrestled mainly Rollins. And Rollins, while he does the WWE style, he's a very diverse performer.
Yeah.
Right. Cody, he's been out of the WWE bubble. He's been doing his own style for a while. Miz is very much 100%. This is the kind of wrestler we want in the WWE style. I just think they were on two separate pages. They weren't even like botching difficult stuff for the most part. Like it was just stuff. They just looked like they were on different pages and going at different paces. I think Cody was trying to work at a faster pace than Miz was going to work at, and it just became off. Your point about, Vince souring is good, because you would think he wouldn't, given that all, they've put behind Cody and everything. But Vince is a weird dude, and he could just see that, like, all right, fuck it. Like, we ain't doing anything with Cody anymore. I can't have a good match with The Miz. Everyone has a good match with The Miz. Like, The Miz is like the safest worker out there. It's like he's the guaranteed just like thumbs up match, The Miz. You ain't gonna get like this classic with The Miz or anything, but for the most part, you're also not gonna get like this horrible match. This match wasn't horrible by any stretch of the imagination, but it was not your usual Miz is out there, acceptable television wrestling match with The Miz. And like Vince could see that and just be like, we ain't doing nothing with Cody after this. I don't think that's going to happen, but what do I know about Vince McMahon? This man is 776 and is probably working out and has been working out for the past 5 hours. He's a lunatic. So I don't know anything about the mindset of Vince McMahon. I think Cody will be fine. It wasn't a great match. It was Cody's first real miss since returning to WWE, because I think his matches up to this point have been very good. His promos have been very good. This was a miss. It's going to happen.
Yeah, and my fear comes more from like remember at WrestleMania 33 when Kevin Owens and Chris Jericho had their match, and like McMahon just like didn't like it. And like there's footage
Chris
of
Jericho and Kevin Owens tell this story every podcast.
yes, yeah, and well, there's footage of of Owens going backstage after the match, and they all walk past Vince, and Vince is always like hugging him or like giving him a thumbs up or whatever. And Vince was just like, no, that wasn't it, like that. And Owens is like, oh, okay. And he's like, am I in trouble? Like, oh no, and that really hurt Kevin Owens' push. He's rebounded over time to a degree. I mean, he's really all over the place, going from main eventing WrestleMania against Steve Austin this year to like not having to be the one to try to crack the case on
but
if
that
Elias
shit is like great WWE nonsense. This Ezekiel stuff.
Sure, I'm not saying it isn't. I'm just saying like Owens is all over the place. Like they sometimes he's just like off TV for extended amounts of time, and like but it was one of those things where like I really liked the Owens and Jericho match at WrestleMania. Like I didn't see anything wrong with that match, and Vince hated it, and it halted the progression at the time for Kevin Owens. So that's kind of where my fear comes from something like this with Cody. I'm not going to sit here and say it was like the worst match of all time or that was horrible. It just wasn't. They just didn't click. And
it was the worst obvious. Cody Rhodes match of the year.
Yeah, I know. I'd agree with that. Yeah, I agree with that. So that's anyway,
hot take, bold statement.
But yeah, it's just unfortunate because once again, I like both guys a lot. So
he's gonna lose to Rollins at Hell in a Cell, and I'm gonna come on here the week after that and be like, see, if he would have had a better performance against The Miz, they would have put him over Rollins. But because he had that shit match with The Miz, Vince has lost confidence. Seth is getting the push now. I'm gonna push that narrative. I'm gonna control my narrative like WWE does with their statements.
Do you think that it's like? Do you think that Rollins wins in Hell in a Cell and then Cody wins Money in the Bank? Is that the route you think they're going?
Maybe that seems like a WWE thing to do, is like give Rollins this last win and then Cody can have this briefcase. It'll be fine. So that seems like a WWE thing very much.
Yeah, I'll be picking Cody in my Wrestle Rumble picks for that, for what it's worth. But I could see them doing something like that. But yeah. I still love Cody as much as I always have, and I've still got a lot of love for The Miz. I talk about it all the time. I've still got his old...
You being a Miz fan pops me. Like...
Well, because, dude, I was super into the real world back in the day.
I mean, that's fair. Yeah. Like, so was I. Like, and everyone knows I'm a big Challenge fan and everything, but I just...
I'll put the hat on real quick.
Surprises me and pops me that Stephen Jensen...
that trucker hat right here.
Oh, my God.
Going, He's got a Ashton Kutcher style.
Oh my gosh.
Be good, be bad, be Miz. Yeah. This was his first merchandise back when he was on the Challenge. I had to get this from like his own website back in the day. I think it was be good, be bad, be Miz.com. I could be wrong, but yeah, I mean, yeah, I always loved the Miz because it was one of those things where like I have a lot of respect for the fact that he, like, his whole goal was to become a wrestler. So like he got into the real world. He created this whole Miz persona where the original Miz persona, that for people who might not know, was basically a dude who just got... The Miz was a heel on the real world. People need to understand this. Everybody in that house hated him. Like, he started that show by saying a bunch of really stupid stuff like day one to his roommates, and like everybody hated him the whole time. So he would just get really drunk. He was like getting drunk by himself all the time. And he would just get drunk and carry around like a replica title belt and like beat up trash cans and stuff. Like nobody liked him. And he was just the Miz was his alter ego. And he basically talked like he was The Rock. And I remember, like, I thought he was really annoying, but I was like such a wrestling fan that I was like, oh dude, this guy like actually wants to be a wrestler. This is crazy. And then when he started winning all these challenges, he took the money he won from the challenges and enrolled himself into UPW's wrestling school out in California. By the way, the same place that John Cena and Samoa Joe trained at. And then now look where he is, like all these years later. Like he accomplished his goal. He used the celebrity of MTV to achieve his goal of being a pro wrestler. Like I got a lot of respect for that. You know what I mean?
I'm with it. Like, to watching The Miz on the Real World and the Challenge, and then to see him where he's at now, he did it. Good on him. He went through a lot, especially early in WWE with everything, and he pushed through. He persevered, and he's really become one of the most trusted people in WWE. He got his own reality show, married to Maurice. The man's doing well for himself. Bless the Miz.
100%.
His greatest rival of all time is Coral. That's facts.
Well, that's what people in the chat are saying. Miz was racist. He was. Like when he started the real world, he was. He was from his little town in Parma, Ohio, all white.
Ohio sucks.
Well, here's the thing: people need to understand too is back then, even though this was the '90s or like late '90s, early 2000s, this was still like. I'm not defending it. I'm just saying like. A show like The Real World was so groundbreaking at the time because there were so many people that really were never outside of their own bubble back then. Like, because there wasn't the social media and everyone connected through the internet like they are now. So someone like The Miz grew up his whole life around only white people, hearing a whole bunch of racist stuff his whole life. His grandfather, I think, had told him that like black people don't work as hard as white people and all this stuff in his business. And so Miz was saying this kind of stuff, not because he didn't know any black people. And so he said a bunch of really ignorant, stupid stuff. And I think it's fair to say that over time, his views have clearly changed. Even during The Real World, by the end of the show, he was getting along way better with his roommates and people understood. Like, I mean, let's be honest. A lot of people are just products of their environment, regardless of like what that environment is. And if you don't know any better, you don't know any better. And I think that The Miz, he absolutely was racist when he started The Real World. I think he'd admit that and anyone else would. But over time, I think I think it's pretty clear that has changed. You know what I mean? I don't hold that against him anymore. But at the time, it made for some very, very awkward television because I remember watching that in like middle school and being like, this dude's gonna like these rumors are gonna beat this guy's ass. This guy's saying some really stupid stuff to people he's living with. You know what I mean? Like, so he's had quite the redemption arc, I guess, over time. So.
Jensen, your WWE Spotlight this week is Stephanie McMahon announced that she's taking a leave of absence from her roles as the Chief Brand Officer. She said she's going to spend more time with her family. Not much else is known about this, but your thoughts on Stephanie McMahon kind of stepping away for a little bit?
It's surprising and it isn't. It depends on how you look at it. Like I think that even back when McAfee did that interview with Vince, I think that was really telling when Vince was talking about the future of the WWE and making it pretty clear that this could be with or without family. Like that, and I think that he's known for a while that Stephanie was going to be taking time off and that Triple H was going to be losing a lot of his power in the company and all this stuff. And I think a lot of it has to do with, it's Nick Khan. I'll just say it. Nick Khan has all their jobs now. Like, most of what Stephanie did, I think, is just now Nick Khan. A lot of what Triple H did, I think it's Nick Khan. I think if and when WWE sells to Disney or some other large corporation, Nick Khan will probably be the Tony Khan, the Dana White, I should say, of WWE probably. Like within the Disney umbrella or whatever, like Nick Khan will probably be the one running the company if Vince wants to take the payout and just retire and just enjoy the rest of his time on earth here with his family at the same time, earning generational wealth to the point, if he can sell the company for like $10 billion, that's the ultimate win, I think, for Vince McMahon. Like no one in your family ever has to work ever. And we're talking for the rest of history in that bloodline. And he can just enjoy the rest of his life and Nick Khan can kind of just take over. And I think that has to do a little bit probably with like the Becky and Sasha stuff, the Sasha and Naomi stuff too, is because I think that like some of these problems the talents are having, I think if it was like Triple H in charge, they work it out. But I think because now it's like how Nick Khan handles things is different. Like I think that Nick Khan might be the reason why WWE put that statement out right away about Sasha and Naomi. They stopped doing this future endeavor thing right around the time that he came in. I think this might just be his kind of protocol and the way that he does things. And it's probably rubbing a lot of people the wrong way. So that said, I think a lot of that has to do with the Stephanie situation is like, she probably is like, her role is just getting smaller and smaller. Vince has probably made it clear that Tony Khan is his successor and not Stephanie.
Imagine if Tony Khan was his successor.
Oh, I'm sorry, Nick Khan. Nick Khan. No, hey, I think it's possible Tony Khan could wind up buying the WWE at some point in his lifetime as well. I think it's possible. I don't think it's like going to happen anytime soon, but we also have to keep in mind, and I'm not saying this to be like grim or like that I'm wishing death on anybody, because that's obviously not what I'm doing. But we got to keep in mind, eventually Shad Khan, when he passes away, Tony Khan is going to be a multi-billionaire, so like he's going to have the money to do whatever he wants with when he gets that inheritance from his dad. I mean, he's already a multi-millionaire and involved. I mean, because you could think about this, if Tony Khan, like if he got his dad's inheritance and then he also wound up selling his soccer team and sold whatever stake he has with the Jaguars and all that stuff, he could do whatever he wanted in the world of wrestling. If you wanted to just focus on that. But that said, that's all just speculation type stuff. With Stephanie, once again, it just isn't surprising because I think that Nick Khan just kind of has her job now. But at the same time, it is strange where like Stephanie's just such a big part of that company that it is a big deal for her to be walking away. So it's interesting times for sure.
I don't know how much Nick Khan, his influence is over this decision. I'd imagine there's a little bit, because things have certainly changed since Nick Khan has gotten there, and people that we thought were next in line, their roles being diminished since Nick Khan has gotten there. And it's clear Vince has a lot of trust in what Nick Khan is doing. Nick Khan is a businessman. That's what that man cares about. He cares about that bottom line. And that's what Vince is caring about at this point.
You're trying to sell the company, so that's why you care about the bottom line so much.
Yeah. As far as Stephanie goes, it was surprising to see her take a leave of absence. I hope everything is okay. I mean, Triple H went through a lot last year with his surgery and all of his health issues. They got kids and everything. Maybe it is a thing of she just wants to spend a little bit more time with her kids and with Triple H and whatnot. I don't know. It seems like they are hiring, maybe not like her exact position, but certainly like her position adjacent to try to fill that role. I'm sure Nick Khan is taking on more responsibility in there. Like Stephanie has good relationships with a lot of these companies. She helped build relationships and partnerships with a lot of companies. She goes on a lot of tours and speaks about WWE. And, I've heard the This Is Hope chant story a million times on all of these press tours and conferences that she does. So she has probably a bigger role than people may imagine that Stephanie had, because she's just not on television anymore. I don't know who does that now. Maybe it is Nick Khan. Maybe he is kind of like you said, like Dana White, where he's just going to do a bunch of media and stuff. He's not as brash as Dana White with the comments he will say. He's much more even keel in how he's going to say things. I mean, the Ariel Helwani interview, he said some stuff. You can read into a lot of stuff, but he was not very in your face about everything he was going to say. He says it almost not really monotonic or robotic, because there's certainly some emotion there, but he says it like, these are my beliefs. This is what's happening. You can either like it or you don't. Nick Khan just doesn't give a fuck. And that with Triple H and Stephanie, it seems like there is a little bit more care with performers and everything there. That Nick Khan he doesn't have these relationships with these people. At the end of the day, like Nick Khan or Triple H and Stephanie, they've been there for years. They've helped build these relationships with a lot of these talents. Like, Triple H has talked about the NXT kids and stuff. Stephanie, she created women's wrestling and everything. So she has great relationships with all these talents. Nick Khan comes in and he don't care. He doesn't have these relationships. He just sees names and numbers to this man. And that's all it matters. So we will see what happens with Stephanie, and if she returns, when she returns, and what happens in the meantime while she is gone with Nick Khan and whoever kind of takes on that role. But I think a lot of her role was already being filled by Nick Khan in getting these partnerships with different sponsors and with different media outlets and everything like that. I think Nick Khan was already doing a good chunk of that legwork. And so Stephanie's role, much like Triple H's, had already diminished in that area.
Yeah, 100%. I couldn't agree more. And, I think it's worth noting, of course, that Stephanie said that she's still doing some duties with the company. Like, she isn't like completely all the way out, but she's, and I've also heard stuff about like potential family, maybe like a medical thing or something that she has, like, that's going to take more of her time being at home. And I hope that her kids are okay and that like Triple H is okay and that she's okay and everything. Like I obviously don't want anything bad to happen to anybody. And I hope that that isn't the case. Because if it is, that changes a lot. Like, I mean, if this is really more about like one of their kids is sick or something like that, I don't want to even speculate about that kind of stuff or put any of that kind of stuff out in the world. But I'm just saying, like, I could be totally wrong about the Nick Khan stuff, and this could be as simple as like Stephanie just needs to be home for her family for like more important reasons right now. Which, if that's the case, I hope that they get that get that handled, because I don't want anything bad to happen to her or family, obviously. And they've been through enough with like Triple H and this past year and stuff like that. But I just have to believe this has a lot to do with Nick Khan, because it seems very similar to the position Triple H is in a lot of ways. And I think that Stephanie and Triple H are both kind of getting phased out of the company, and it's Nick Khan basically took her jobs. You know what I mean? So it's like, it just is what it is.
Boss says, "Oh, cool. You're talking about Succession. Oh, just McMahon WWE drama. I've heard so many good things about Succession. I don't know if I'll ever get around to watching it, but at some point, maybe everyone should, because it sounds like it's a very great show." Our other spotlights, Stephen Jensen, yours is United Empire showing up on AEW Dynamite last night, attacking FTR and causing a DQ in the ROH tag team title match between FTR and Roppongi Vice. I mean, it seems like we're setting up for United Empire, Great-O-Khan, Jeff Cobb against FTR, potentially at Forbidden Door for the ROH tag team titles. So it'd be an AEW team against a New Japan team for an ROH team, for an ROH title.
Yes, and that's why it is my my other category this week, because it is a New Japan team showing up on AEW, but involved with the Ring of Honor tag team title match. So, I pretty much what you just said. Like, AEW doesn't do very many DQ finishes, hardly any. So I don't mind so much that this happened, because it introduced Jeff Cobb and Great-O-Khan to the AEW audience. I mean, most of the audience already knows them, but maybe, being outsiders coming in, invading the company, build the Forbidden Door and all that stuff. I thought FTR and Roppongi Vice, like, there's a lot of talent there, obviously, with those two tag teams. And we have plenty of time to see them run that back at some point in the future. So I think we'll still get like a straight up just FTR and Roppongi Vice match. But I like that they've included Jeff Cobb and Great-O-Khan into this. And especially for Great-O-Khan, like, Jeff Cobb has shown up in AEW before. I actually got to see him live against Moxley in Atlanta a couple years ago. And then he wound up signing with New Japan and staying there. But I think Jeff Cobb could be money in AEW too. I mean, I think he's like really super talented and still kind of slept on, if I'm being honest. Like, I think there's a lot of potential with him still in the States. But
bring him back as Matanza.
Yeah. That dude, his initial run in Lucha Underground was crazy, where he just pinned everybody. But like, Great-O-Khan is probably fairly unknown to a lot of the US market. So it's cool to see the two of them pop up. And like I said, I think the DQ made sense, because like, it'd be different if they were doing this every week, but like, they just do it so rarely that like this made sense to do it in this position, I think. So that's why it was my spotlight. Ring of Honor tag team title match ends in a DQ, but because of New Japan Pro Wrestling talents from United Empire coming over and invading AEW. So I think that Jeff Cobb and Great-O-Khan will clearly go after the Ring of Honor tag team titles. They'll probably at whatever the next Ring of Honor pay-per-view, I'm guessing, or maybe at Forbidden Door. I mean, that also makes probably the most sense. Probably at Forbidden Door, they get a tag team title shot, probably. So, what do you think about this invasion?
I think, like, I wasn't expecting it. That's for sure. I was definitely not expecting to see Jeff Cobb and Great-O-Khan just randomly show up here. They do have to. I mean, we're a month out from Forbidden Door, so they've got to. They got to get through Double or Nothing, but they've also got to kick into some matchups here, some feuds. I think a lot of the card is just going to be built around, like, look at this cool dream matchup. And like, that's going to work for most people in this respect. But I do like that they will put some focus on, like, hey, here's a reason why you should care about this match beyond, hey, here's this really cool match. So I was surprised by it. I liked it. I think Great-O-Khan has grown a lot as a performer since he first debuted. So I think he could be kind of like a TV star, and I think this could be like a big breakout for him. I don't know how much it'll eventually mean, but I think it could mean something bigger for his future. And maybe coming, I don't think he'll like join AEW full time, but maybe having like more of a role in AEW or ROH, more specifically ROH. The AEW roster is kind of stacked as is. And Jeff Cobb, like you said, like he's a guy who can slot in anywhere and just give you great matches and great performances. So I like it. I imagine they're setting up for Forbidden Door. Maybe it's a triple threat match with Roppongi Vice, since they technically did not lose this match. I think we're going to get Cobb and O'Khan against Roppongi Vice on a Dynamite or Rampage at some point, and then I assume Cobb and O'Khan will win, and that'll set up the Forbidden Door match. But I like that they're adding a little bit of juice to Forbidden Door with a month out, and more than just like, hey, here's this cool dream match.
I think they'll also add a little bit more juice in the form of Juice Robinson. So.
Yeah, I would imagine he's going to be on there somewhere with Forbidden Door as the United States champion. So we'll see with that. My other spotlight, Jensen, is shifting to New Japan. The Best of Super Juniors tournament is in the middle of the run right now. There's only like a week left. I think it concludes on June 3rd. And Hiromu Takahashi took on Ace Austin, and Hiromu won. I thought the match was like good. It was one of the better matches of the tournament so far. I heard the El Phantasmo Robbie Eagles match from this morning was very good. I've not gotten a chance to watch it, but everybody I've seen on my timeline is saying great things about it, so I'll have to watch that. I thought Hiromu and Ace Austin was good. The thing that is sort of the big talking point here is Hiromu won. They showed a sign of respect afterwards, which was interesting because Ace Austin is a heel. He's a dick. So for him to, kind of show respect to Hiromu was a little out of character. And then after that, they're both on social media, and Hiromu's like, next time I want your title. Scott D'Amore says, hey, anytime you want to come at Impact, open door policy, you get a title shot. I don't think we're going to see Hiromu in Impact taking on Ace Austin for the X Division Championship. But man, you give these guys more than 12 minutes, because that's about how long this match was. It's about a 12-minute match. You give these guys 15, 16 minutes, I think they could have an absolute banger of a match. And I'd really like to see what they could do with more time. And I'd like to see Hiromu in Impact, because that's another guy, when I talk about like television stars, Hiromu's charisma is just like off the charts. And if you get him in front of like a TV audience, he connects immediately.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more with all of that. I mean, I think it would be great for Impact Wrestling if they could get Takahashi versus Ace Austin on one of their big shows. I think that would be just awesome. I think Takahashi is just a charisma machine. I remember a few years ago when he got his neck broken and like that I can't remember who he was wrestling, but they threw him like over.
Wrestling Dragon Lee.
That's right. It was Dragon Lee. You're right. Yeah. And he landed on the top of his head on like one of the, I don't even know what you call that move where you like, almost like the alley-oop, like the backwards power bomb type thing, but he landed on his head. Before that, I thought Takahashi was like on just a massive hot streak. I mean, like he looked like he was going to be one of New Japan's like top guys. I know they're a little weary sometimes on the smaller guys, and they kind of pigeonhole them as like juniors and stuff. But like Takahashi seemed like he was kind of like breaking out of that, even all the way back then. And I love seeing where he's at now. And I think that him and Ace Austin is a really great matchup and everything. The Phoenix Plex. Thank you, Full Metal Creed. Yeah, you got it. But like, and this is what I've been saying about Ace Austin for so long about Impact Wrestling, and why I get so frustrated about why they don't do more with him and why he hasn't been their world champion. And like being the X Division champion, that's all good and well, but this is the third time he's had that title belt. I think that, this is just proving my point even more, this tournament, because now it feels like the whole wrestling world is like, Ace Austin is incredible. And like now all the New Japan fans are like, hell yeah, like we got to get more Ace Austin. Like I didn't realize he was this good. And I'm like, yeah, because way to go, Impact, because now he's going to for sure bail when the opportunity comes. Like you could have had him as your world champion, super happy, extend his contract out multiple times, give him some pay raises, and he could be your guy for a long time as like a top homegrown type talent. Because
Ace Austin just signed a new deal in April, so he's going to be there at least. It's a multi-year deal, so I don't know like full details on it, but it sounds like it's at least 2 years. So I don't think Ace Austin's going anywhere like anytime soon.
Okay, well, I didn't know that he re-signed that recently, but for the next 2 years, let me put this out there. Impact, give him the ball for the next 2 years, like, because it's like he's just out there just proving my point and everyone else's point right now in this Best of Super Juniors. I'm hearing everyone just raving about how incredible he is, and a lot of these people are saying, like, yeah, I kind of knew about Ace Austin, or I've heard the name, but like now, like, I didn't realize he was this incredible. And it's like the whole wrestling world should already be talking about this because Impact's had him for so long already. Like, so anyways, I think that it's a good matchup between the two of them. I want to see that matchup again. And I think that it would be really, really cool to see Hiromu Takahashi challenge for the X Division Championship in Impact. Especially because Takahashi won this match and Austin can get the win back on his own home turf. And like, they can maybe do a trilogy match at some point or something like that. Like, there's a lot of meat on the bone here, I think, for something long-term between these two guys. But yeah, huge shout out to Takahashi, because once again, I think he's just one of the most charismatic dudes in wrestling. I love what he does. And shout out to Ace Austin, who is becoming a bigger and bigger star by the day through this New Japan tournament. And also, I just hope that Impact takes notes and they're like, you know, I don't want to go down this whole rabbit hole of Impact doing this over and over with talents, but like they gotta, it's kind of like we were talking about with like CM Punk a little bit earlier. The opportunity is right there. And like, whether you're afraid that he's going to, okay, maybe he's there for 2 more years, but you already have it in the back of your mind. Well, he's going to leave 2 years from now for sure, because he's just going to have so much leverage. And who cares? Like, push him for 2 years, get the most you can out of him in your company. And if he's going to leave, put someone else over him on the way out and build another star. Like, you know, so I'm glad you spotlighted this though, Jeremy, because it gave us a reason to talk about Takahashi and Ace Austin, because I think both guys are mega talented. And I think that, I really want to see that match happen in Impact, and I hope it does, because with Scott D'Amore mentioning it, at least it's out there in the universe now. Maybe it is something that we'll get to see.
I'd be shocked if Ace Austin doesn't win the Impact World Title within the next 2 years. I know there was, I think Tommy Dreamer said it, that he was supposed to win it a couple times in the past, and then plans just kind of got changed for various reasons. But I would be very stunned if he doesn't win it within the next 2 years. And if he doesn't, that's a big miss on the part of Impact, because this kid has kind of everything you need when it comes to a world champion. So I hope the match happens with him and Hiromu as well. And on Hiromu, I'd be kind of shocked if he doesn't move up to heavyweight division at some point, because I think that run is going to be incredible. He's kind of done everything he needs to do in the junior division. It's time for him to move up and start wrestling the heavyweight guys. Indie Spotlight, Stephen Jensen. Joey Janela set his foot on fire. That's it. He set his foot on fire.
so I thought the whole GCW Maniac show was really good. My birthday was that night, like at the midnight that night, like it became my birthday. And it was so funny, the timing, because right at midnight when the clock rolled over and like my birthday started was exactly when Jimmy Lloyd's music hit for him to enter the ring. And Jimmy Lloyd, people know, like, he's like one of my favorites. I'm always tweeting about Jimmy Lloyd. And within the first minute of my birthday, the 2 guys that entered that ring were Jimmy Lloyd and Cole Radrick. And I was like, my dudes, like, they're like, this is the universe telling me something. And then the scramble match wound up being like the 2 of them, AJ Gray, Starboy Charlie returned. I think Jack Cartwheel was in there. I can't remember who else was in that match, but it was basically like the happy birthday Stephen Jensen scramble match. I was like, this is hilarious. Like, these are all my dudes. And the match going into that was Masha Slamovich versus Speedball Bailey. So I was like, this is like a show made for my birthday. This is great.
Ninja Mac was also in the
Ninja Mac, of course. Yes. How could I forget Ninja Mac? Of course. My dude. But yes, so I wanted to give that a shout out real quick. But yes, the actual spotlight that I've chosen, because it got a lot of people were talking about it on social media when it happened. Joey Janela wrestled Drew Parker in a death match in the main event of the show. And at one point, Joey Janela soaked his foot in lighter fluid and then lit his foot on fire. And he hit a really sweet super kick, a flaming super kick onto Drew Parker, which I figured probably should have been the end of the match. And Drew Parker eventually won with a swanton off the top rope into a table or a door that was or whatever, I guess it was a big piece of plywood with a barbed wire all over it. But yeah, Joey Janela hits a super kick with his foot on fire, but then he couldn't put the fire out, which was like, it's like such a GCW thing to do, but like because they're outlaw, and we don't have to go into the there's other GCW stuff going on that's ongoing right now that I don't want to talk about until there's more information out there about it. But like when it comes to this show, it's just such a GCW thing where it's like you didn't think it all the way through. Like you lit your foot on fire, you did the move, but nobody was ready with like a fire extinguisher.
Yeah, there was no fire extinguisher. They just had water bottles to like put it. How did they think this thing was gonna go out? Usually, if you set like a flaming table or yourself on fire, like the impact and stuff will just kind of calm the fire. There wasn't enough impact with this super kick for like, oh, the fire's just gonna go out on impact. Like we're done. And like he put a lot of lighter fluid on his foot as well. Like he pulls his boot off and his foot is still on fire. And there was no one with like a towel. There was no one with a fire extinguisher. Just take some water bottles and just dump it right fast.
The referee and him are like trying to.
What are we doing here? And it should have been the finish. Like you're doing a flaming super kick, which is an idea that one of the Jacksons had. Is they said it after they did the thumbtack super kick at All Out last year. They did an interview and they're like, okay, well, what's like the next thing you want to do? And one of them said like, oh, I want to set a shoe on fire and do a flaming super kick. And Janela's like, all right, well, a few months later, I'm just going to do this flaming super kick. But precautions were not taken for this flaming super kick.
Yeah, not at all. And here's the thing. Shout out Joey Janela. Like I like Joey. I like that they're outside of the box and they do this kind of stuff. So, Full Metal Creed. That's funny. He says, surprised no one threw their booze on it, thinking they could put out the fire. Yeah, that would be a thing that would happen in a GCW show. They'd try to put it out with like vodka or something, and the thing just starts spreading. Man, this was once again props to Joey Janela for the creativity and for doing it. I thought it was a really cool visual, but I just wanted to throw that out there today on the show in case people missed it. Like, check it out. I mean, it was a really cool looking move. But it was like, how is there not a fire extinguisher or a big blanket or something? They just weren't prepared. They just thought that the fire was just going to go out on its own, and the water bottles weren't enough.
Janela didn't stop, drop, and roll or anything. He just like looked at his foot and was like, just go out, and it wouldn't go out. Come on, Joey. This is kindergarten stuff that you learn.
Well, also, I'll say the match was really good. I mean, like I really like Drew Parker versus Joey Janela. So like, I just, so watch the match, enjoy the match, enjoy the whole show. I thought GCW Maniac was a really, really good card from top to bottom. But the whole wrestling world was talking about that flaming super kick. So I wanted to throw that out there in case y'all missed it. And I want to see something like that again. Like I think it's really cool seeing stuff like that. But you just got to be prepared and ready to put the fire out.
Yeah, definitely. My indie spotlight is I was live at AIW Gauntlet for the Gold this past Saturday. We had John Thorne on the show last week to talk about it. He promised some surprises and a lot of AIW like kind of mainstays from back in the day that I'm not too familiar with. So I didn't know too much about him, but the crowd there like loved, like when Dick Justice came out and Dan Baller, I think his name was, he came out. Like they love these guys. Again, I'm not too familiar with them, but the crowd loved it. The big surprise for the more mainstream audience was Britt Baker returning to the promotion and doing an 8-person tag team match. I thought the show was great. Eddie Kingston and Isaiah Brona kicked the shit out of each other. Like that match was absolutely awesome. Josh Briggs, who
Josh Bishop.
Sorry. Yeah. I'm thinking the NXT guy. Yeah, Josh Bishop. That guy, you guys talked about him last week on the show. Immediate like star presence and star quality the moment he enters from backstage, and he won the Gauntlet for the Gold, so he'll face Cardona at Absolution in July, and I think they're going to be back in the same arena for Absolution, so I'm probably going to end up going to that as well. But great environment, great experience. AIW, it was a hell of a show. I thought everything delivered. So some really good matches. If you guys, it aired live on IWTV. I know John Thorne said last week, like, oh, I think it's going to be next day. But then like day of, they said it was going to air live. So it was live on IWTV. Everyone can go check it out. I won a Suzuki signed turnbuckle, Stephen Jensen. I won a raffle. So that was pretty sweet. It was a really, really good show. And kind of like we talk about a lot on the show and a lot with, like John Thorne was saying, like support your local indie. They put on great shows. You'll learn of the new talent, kind of the up and coming talent. I would be shocked if Josh Bishop is not in WWE within the next couple of years. This guy has everything you would kind of want from a WWE standpoint. I would be very surprised if he's not there within the next couple of years.
The crazy thing is he tried out with them like within the last probably 3 to 6 months, and they apparently passed on him.
Well, they're idiots sometimes. I think he'll end up with another tryout, and he will be there because I think he's only going to get better in the ring, especially working. Now he's going to work Cardona, so that's Cardona obviously knows that style very well and is a buzz name. So he has everything that you kind of want from a superstar. So I'd be shocked if he's not there within the next few years.
Absolutely. He's got the size, the athleticism. He's crazy. Like we talked about with John Thorne, like he'll do crazy bumps, crazy stuff out there. And he's still in his early 20s. I mean, he's just, he's a blue chip prospect. Is like, I guess would probably be the best way of saying it. And he's the one who was the champion, and Cardona beat him for the title. Yeah. So this is kind of his like big redemption story to get that title back. Yeah, and you didn't even mention, you didn't just get a Suzuki signed turnbuckle pad. You got a Kaplan signed turnbuckle pad.
Kaplan did sign it as well. Kaplan and Lawler did not brawl near me, so I didn't have to throw hands with any of them. They did tease like a door spot. That match was a little rough, I must say. Like John Thorne said it was going to be a train wreck. It kind of was. Like it was rough. They teased the door spot throughout and never delivered on that, which was the crowd was not happy about. They looked like they were on two separate pages with stuff as well, which was disappointing. And again, they didn't come near me. I tried to throw hands. I would have thrown them through the door, but they would have definitely thrown me through the door. I would have taken the door spot.
I almost tweeted at you because you posted a picture, I think, during Tom Lawler and Kaplan, I think, and I was about to be like, you're a little far away from a dude who's trying to pick a fight right now. Like
they gotta come to me. I'm not coming there to fight. I can't jump the guardrail. Had they gone over the guardrail, I would have been in the mix, but I was waiting for them to get over to me. They didn't do it. They're the cowards. Fair. They didn't go through doors. They didn't come fight me. Tom Lawler and Kaplan, please don't kick my ass. But I will get thrown through a door. I won't. Please don't do that to me.
There you go. But yeah, check the show out, y'all. IWTV. You can use code Fight Talk if you want to over at IWTV. Check it out. If you want to hear more about AIW and from John Thorne, the owner promoter of that company. We did interview him last week. So you can listen to last week's episode of the Spotlight, or you can listen to the interview over at Fightful Overbooked, the full interview. And I actually broke down a lot of the talent on the Weekender. So that's over at FightfulSelect.com if you want to hear more deep dives on some of the talent involved in the show. But Jeremy, I got to go get my shoot job going. Thank you for finishing the show up. Y'all are about to hear a conversation with myself, Jeremy Lambert, and Jaychele. And I thought it was really a conversation that you're about to hear. Jeremy, feel free to elaborate more on AIW if you want to when I leave. I know you've already kind of started setting it up for the interview, but if there's more you want to talk about with AIW, go for it. I just need to make sure I am clocking in for work. So
get clocked in, Jensen. We appreciate it. Everyone follow Stephen Jensen at FightTalk_. Go to Fightful Select, subscribe, listen to the Weekender. All that fun stuff. So appreciate it, Jensen. I'm going to throw to the interview with Jaychele Nicole. We talk about Wrestling with Whiteness, that documentary. Talk about kind of her balancing school and work and a bunch of other topics with Jaychele. So we are going to go to that in just a second as I pull it up. Jensen, thank you. Have a good day, buddy. Enjoy the shoot job.
Yep. See y'all.
All right. Apologies. There we go. Hello, welcome back, everyone, to the Creator Spotlight. Here on the Spotlight, there's a face you may know, you may remember, Jaychele Nicole from Wrestling with Whiteness. The documentary comes out on May 28th, and also from our pals over at the Late Night Grin. Jaychele, how you doing?
I'm great. I'm so excited to be here talking about Wrestling with Whiteness, and it's a passion project of mine, and I'm honored to be here.
Well, let's go ahead and jump right into that. So Wrestling with Whiteness is the documentary that, again, comes out on May 28th. And I'm just going to read the curriculars here. A documentary on being Black in professional wrestling business. You put all this together. You interviewed a ton of talent for this. Everyone from Ricky Starks, Big Swole, Alex Kane, Darius Lockhart, Khan, Moses, Reverend Ron Hunt, Tasha Steeles, a ton more that I could go on about. I've seen it. I've watched the entire preview. I love it. I thought you did a great job with it. It's broken up into 5 sections. There's not only wrestlers, there are content creators on here as well. People may know. Muscleman Malcolm, Will Washington, Public Enemies podcast. So a bunch of people who you may know, or people, if you don't know, you'll get familiar with very quickly. So I just want to start with, how did this idea come about for you?
Yeah, so actually it was I want to say December I came up with the idea. I was trying to think of my senior thesis project for school. Actually, I'm a senior in high school and I had to do a project, and it was supposed to be around my internship, and I was teaching at the time, but I was like, no, I want to do something in the wrestling world. And my background is in social justice. I've been a youth organizer since I was 13 years old or so. So I've always had interest in diversity, equity, and inclusion. I'm now going on to study that in college. But I always wanted to see how I could kind of intermingle what I was doing in the wrestling world with interviews and podcasts and stuff with my passion for social justice. And it kind of just turned out being my final project, which is Wrestling with Whiteness.
Nice.
Yeah. So congratulations, by the way, on graduating high school.
Thank you.
I remember going through that. Me and Jeremy were like the same age.
We're
old. A long time ago. That was a long time ago. Where were you, Jeremy? That was 2006.
Oh, graduate? Yeah, 06.
Yeah, 06, yeah. So yeah, so congratulations.
Don't do this shocked face. Like, we are old.
Oh yeah, we're old. But Jaychele, so like how did that all kind of like with you getting into like wrestling media and deciding to like cover wrestling more and devote a lot of like your time and energy to wrestling, did that come like, let me know how that kind of came about. I'm sure obviously you were like a fan of wrestling, but it sounds like you're also like very involved in just other stuff, and you've always been driven to just be involved in a bunch of different things. I mean, you mentioning you being a part of these clubs and groups and stuff since you were like 13 years old and in like pretty important fields. So how did this all like come together where you're spending so much of your time like devoted to wrestling nowadays?
Yeah, so at the beginning of the pandemic, I kind of circled back to wrestling. I started watching back in April of like 2014-ish. But then I stopped once I got to high school because it just like wasn't cool or whatever. But once quarantine came, I was like, well, I need something to do. So I just started watching wrestling again. I remember the first show that I watched back was like WrestleMania 36, I think, or something like that. But after that, it was kind of like a year or so, I want to say, before I started like really engaging on Twitter and stuff. I saw like the stuff that Fightful was doing, and I was like super engaged in like their podcast, and I was like, I think I could do something like this because my background has always been in like public speaking. I've given speeches my whole life, and I like to think I'm quick on my toes. I would do interviews with my newspapers and stuff like that, so I thought that I would be good at it. And I just quickly began to find myself kind of trying to analyze wrestling like I saw the people on YouTube doing as well, and kind of trying to mimic that, but with my own interests and my own point of views, especially as a young woman of color who has a background in diversity, equity, and inclusion, which I feel like is a really unique thing that I bring to the table when it comes to being in wrestling media. I don't really know how I got to spending all my time on this. It kind of just happened. I was on the distraction, the women's takeover with Kate. After that, I joined Body Slam. I became the co-managing editor. I've since left Body Slam, but everything happened really quickly. So it started back in November, I want to say.
Gotcha. Yeah, I want to add real quick. It's cool that you have. We talked about this with Muscleman Malcolm when we interviewed him a while back as well. But like y'all's generation, it's just so wild, like the access that y'all have to broadcasting, because for one, it makes it really hard in some ways to get noticed because so many people have access to being able to do it. But in other ways, it's making it a lot easier because like you're able to do it. And like when I was around your age, when I was in college, I had to do like college radio, college magazines, because like YouTube was, I mean, it was like brand new and you couldn't make money on it. Like, it was so out of the realm of like, so I think it's really, really cool seeing people around your age taking the initiative so young to like really dive in, because the technology is there. And if you have the drive to get involved, you can, you know?
Mm-hmm.
It's crazy that you got back into wrestling during the pandemic, because I feel like that's when a lot of people realized, hey, there's other stuff I can actually be watching instead of this pro wrestling stuff. So for you to actually rediscover your love for wrestling during the pandemic is kind of crazy to hear. How did you balance, everything going on with high school? Because I know you were, I guess, what's the superlative, super senior. Like you were very much. I know the grades were high and everything. So you were doing all that, and I know all the work you were doing with various outlets like Body Slam and doing different shows and stuff. How'd you find the balance on that? And then moving forward, going into college this year, like what are you thinking when it comes to the balance with everything?
Yeah, so with high school, I actually go to a career technical center school, whatever, like um there's a more flexible model in my school. So I would actually spend Wednesdays and Fridays fully at home. I was able to just focus on my wrestling stuff. My advisor was super flexible and allowed me to make wrestling my internship eventually. So I just kind of transferred all of my time into that, and all of my projects were based around wrestling. I just finished from my senior year. I have to write a final like thesis paper, and it was about Black women in wrestling and the misogynoir that they face, and it was 16 pages. And it didn't even really feel like work. It just all felt so natural that I was able to kind of convert what I was doing in the wrestling media side to my schoolwork, and to do that back and forth as well. Like Wrestling with Whiteness is my final project for school. It's my final high school project, but it's also this really big piece of who I want to be in the wrestling media world. So, college as well. Oh God, I have no clue. I literally filled out my housing application today. I'm hoping for a single dorm, so I can still do my podcast and stuff like that, or a suite, but the suite has like different bedrooms or whatever. So something like that, something where I can at least be alone, and not have to kind of split it with a roommate.
Just kick them out. You're like, look, I got to talk about wrestling for a couple hours here, so you just need to go away, find something to do, go to study, go get lunch. Just kick them out. That'll be fine.
Man, times have changed so much. Like I remember in college, for me, I was a sport management major, and so like a lot of my classes were sports based, and I had to write all these papers about just different things that had to do with sports. And I would, anytime I'd wanted to write something about pro wrestling, my professors would be like, "That's not a sport. Like, you got to hit like an actual sport." And I'd be like, "Well, now people are covering it in high school. That's cool as hell. That's awesome." Though, like things have changed so much. So. Yeah, how excited are you for college? Because like I remember that feeling and being like super nervous, but honestly, college was probably the best time I ever had in my life, and I think you're gonna love it as well.
I'm excited. I'm not very far from home, which is better. My original plan was I was moving to Georgia, and I was going to school there, and I eventually do want to move to Georgia. That's my like eventual landing spot.
Which college, by the way?
Oh, I was gonna go to Spelman.
Okay, I know about Spelman. I went to Georgia Southern. I actually live in Atlanta, so
wow.
Yeah.
Oh,
so yeah.
Yeah. Well, I visit Atlanta pretty regularly. Like I'm going back there this summer. My sister lives down there, which is kind of why my family was looking at moving. But now I'm only like 50 minutes away, an hour max away from my family, so that's makes me feel really comfortable. But it's also far enough to like stay away for a little while too, which is the perfect balance for me. And I picked a major that I really liked. All the other colleges that I was looking at, none of them had the diversity, equity, and inclusion major that I was looking for, but Bentley has it, which is where I'll be attending. And I also can get a business focus on it. My background's in social justice, but I've also been an entrepreneur. I've started 5 businesses and organizations. Like the time I turned 12, I started my first business. So I've always kind of just been an entrepreneur and very adaptable. So I'm excited for college. I'm also definitely a self-advocate. So if I need something, I'll always make sure I get it, which I feel like is going to come in handy there. But I'm not really interested in the friends piece of college. I really don't want any of that. That sounds annoying.
People are terrible generally. So like I'm with you on that. All your friends talk about wrestling, just hang out with us all the time. You don't need actual, real life friends. That's what
Well, so once again, when we were that age, Jeremy, at best we could watch the primitive YouTubers just all fighting each other. There was no Twitter.
Oh yeah,
there was no Twitter wrestling community. It was all the IWC and the YWC. Now at least you can have friends all over the world.
Yeah.
Or people that hate you. I mean, if you get big enough, everyone just starts hating you. Unfortunately,
Jaychele, what do you know about hate on Twitter? You ever gotten that before?
Oh no, I've never experienced that. Yeah, I don't know what that is. Especially not from like former coworkers either. It's great.
Well, I don't know. We don't need to get
You
into
want to go and
that.
dive into that?
Shoot on former coworkers. I don't know if we need to do all that.
No. Well, hey, let me ask you about current coworkers, okay? Because you got some good current coworkers.
Yeah.
For friends of ours in the late night grin. I want to hear about that. And Jeremy, feel free to circle back to the school questions if you'd like to later on, because I'm fascinated with how young you are, like how impressive that you are. I think it's very, very cool to see. But it's also kind of funny to see with the guys over there at Late Night Grin. So what's that been like? What was kind of your in with them? I know you knew them a little bit before you got involved, but what was kind of your in over there? And what's it been like doing all these podcasts with guys like Bob O'Neill, Jude, and of course Joseph Holbert and all those guys over there.
Yeah, it's so much fun. That's my favorite place to do podcasts and stuff like that. And that's why when it came to college, I was like, I need to figure out a way to make this work. But basically, once Joe kind of started to pick up more stuff at the Late Night Grin, I reached out to him about like collaborating because I was kind of starting my own YouTube channel too. So we did a show called The Free Agents where we kind of just reviewed all of the free agents and talked about where we could see them going. And then we eventually kind of evolved that into a weekly show. So every Friday we would talk about a single free agent and plan out different matches and destinations for them, which now has kind of evolved into us looking towards the rankings in AEW, how they actually compare to the world in wrestling's rankings regarding their in-ring style, the matches they had, their success. We ranked the matches of the week, all of that stuff. Which is really fun because it's like a big review of the week, which is what I like to do. I like to tie a little bow on the week, especially on a Friday. But over there, it's so much fun. I'll pop on random shows. Like one time I did a Dynamite post show with Bob O'Neill. It was just me and him, and it was the funniest thing ever. It was such an odd dynamic. Me with any of them is such an odd dynamic, but it always works so well. So it's very intriguing. And doing the Late Night Grin like itself, like that 4-hour show, tests me like I've never been tested before. I don't know what happens. I always have to just be drinking straight water. If I drink an energy drink, I end up going to sleep, and it just does not work out. It's a strategy.
Oh, that's funny.
I imagine plenty of energy drinks. Yeah, the marathon shows on Friday nights are something to behold over there.
Hey, and I'll also say this: the Fleet 50 was like my favorite thing of like this past year. Like I love the concept of like getting the votes in and all that stuff. Like I think what y'all are doing over there, Late Night Grin, is really cool. I really do enjoy it, and I wish I had more time to like watch everything that like everyone was doing, especially now with my shoot job that we're always talking about on here. Like I just don't have the time that I used to stay up to date with everything, but I try to catch Late Night Grin whenever I can and anything going on over there, because I think y'all are all great people over there, and I think it's just
most
fun.
of them. Not all.
I'll say that, but
not all.
Y'all, it's just fun. Like it's educated to the level of like y'all know what you're talking about and you deep dive onto wrestling topics, so you all really know your stuff. But it's also like super goofy, which is like fun to watch.
Yeah, we got something for everybody too. Me and Oracle, we do a Divas deep dive. We're literally looking at the evolution of the Divas title to the women's title that we have now, and obviously Joe streams every weekday at 10 a.m. like a crazy man. And then I do a couple shows here and there, and there's a bunch of stuff, and we all rotate. So it's a great mix of the personalities, and it's always amazing content, and I think it's very funny. As Shoot has taught me, I do live improv every week. Every time I'm on the podcast, I'm just doing live improv. So
it is. Everyone go check it out, latenightgrin.com. They're on Twitch as well. You can go over there. I think it's twitch.tv/latenightgrin. So I know there was like a YouTube issue. So things are like now just being uploaded. So go support them however you can. Again, most of them good people. Fuck Bob O'Neill, I must say. Everyone else, good person, good people.
I just realized, by the way, that his Twitter picture is Pat Sajak from Rugrats. Like I just realized that the other day. Like I don't know why it's that, but I put that together. Anyways, if anyone's gonna have that, it'd be Bob O'Neill. He's the only one ever. Anyways, go ahead, Joey.
I was going to jump back to the documentary. Who was maybe someone you were hoping to potentially interview for it that you couldn't do, or who was kind of the toughest to kind of track down and get a hold of for this?
I got a list for this one. I'm actually planning on doing a second edition of Wrestling with Whiteness since more people have kind of signed on and are willing to be a part of the next one. But out of the people that I did get on, it was hardest to lock down Darius Lockhart because he doesn't do many interviews at all. So once I was able to explain the concept to him, he was so open to it. He's like a big brother to me now, so I was happy to create that connection. I also interviewed Trisha Dora for the documentary. It just didn't make it on because there were audio issues, and I was so sad because it was in person too, and it was so good. So we're gonna have to have her in the next edition of it. But she was also pretty weary of doing the interview, but rightfully so. And then also for the next piece, I'm hoping to get Leo Rush. Leo was one of the people I wanted the first time around, and I tried really hard to get. It just didn't end up working out. Josiah Williams as well. I also have Swerve, Keith, and Jade on my list, of course, for next round. And I already have AJ Francis signed on for the next edition.
Nice.
Yes. You got to get out to Atlanta for when they do like Terminus and Battle Slam and stuff out here, because I've been going to those shows and you can get a ton of good interviews with a lot of really good talent. A lot of the people you just mentioned have come through those shows recently and stuff. Question for you: who is your favorite wrestler and why is it Tasha Steelz?
Oh my god, I wish I had the video of it. I have to go check out the stream of the Women's Wrestling Army show, but the inaugural show, I think on the film you can see me coaching Tasha to the ropes in a match that she's a heel in, and I'm literally just standing there at the ropes. I'm like, let's go, like clapping for her, like I'm making the most commotion, like I'm her manager. It was very entertaining. But I love Tasha to death. Oh my god. She was always one of my favorite wrestlers, even before I even interacted with her. And then after we did the interview, ever since then, me and her have just been super close. Like me, her, Swole, and Willow, like they're all like my wrestling moms and aunties. So it's always great to have them in my corner, and they're always supporting me like with everything. So I'm very excited.
You mentioned, managing or acting as Tasha Steelz manager. Any interest in doing anything like
I
that in
have
wrestling?
so much interest in that. Oh my god, it's all about timing for me though, because I'm literally about to be in college. So if timing works out in college, then great. If not, when I come out, I'll be like 21, so I'll still be super young and I can do it. I'm actually, for my birthday. I'm so excited about this. I'm going to this 1-day pro wrestling camp, and like they teach you to take bumps and stuff like that. I'm so excited. I literally tortured my boyfriend because I put him in shoot arm bars. I'm a shoot submission like man. I don't know what's happened to me. There's a demo reel on my Twitter if you're really interested in it, and I'm just putting him in a bunch of different moves. I'm like Angelico. I'm just transitioning from a bunch of different moves. I put him in this arm bar where I like cranked his arm up and out of his body. It was amazing. So eventually wrestling, probably not, but managing, I would like to think so. I would like to think I'd get there. If not, I'd actually prefer to be backstage. If I'm going to be honest, I'd like to do diversity and stuff at these companies and be a face backstage that actually is a member of the Black community and understands Black culture to help characters resonate more. But if it comes through managing and it ends up like that, then I'm happy with that regardless. So.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, I love that about managers too. Like I think most of the best managers in wrestling are the ones that at least take some bumps. Like because you got to get your comeuppance eventually, right?
Yeah.
Like you can only talk so much trash and be such a heel or whatever for someone that eventually people want to see you get knocked over every now and then. So if you at least have that part of it and you wind up as a manager, I think that'd be really cool. And then, something backstage. And like you just said, you're so young. Like, you're going to have so much opportunity. Like, I would just enjoy college and just do as much work as you possibly can. And if it doesn't feel like work, just keep doing it for fun and just keep stacking and keep building your resume. And by the time you're done with college, see, here's the other thing, too. You're going to have that college degree to fall back on, which is like, that's so valuable, I think, to have just in general. So, yeah, very, very cool. Who's running that school? Do you know?
Oh, I have no clue. I just know it's like the Northeast Wrestling Academy is what it's called. It's up in Massachusetts.
Okay, gotcha. Well, keep us
I know
posted on
John
that.
Alba's worked there. John Alba
Okay.
recommended me there.
Oh, another
Okay.
guy who can fuck off, honestly. Like,
So
just
funny.
what does he know about managing and taking bumps and everything?
Hey, for what it's worth, I knew about Daniel Garcia before I saw him talking about him. But hey, but that doesn't mean I knew about him first. I'm just saying I know he takes.
Can we bring
up
up Daniel Garcia on this show?
God.
Is that okay?
Okay, wait, why is that a topic? I don't know what the inside joke here is.
I'll tell you off stream. I don't think I'm allowed to speak about it on air anymore. I haven't tweeted about him in a very long time, so.
Sorry about that, Jaychele.
Okay. So for the bit.
You know, I love a good bit. You got to commit to it. Love a good bit. If John Alba can get punched in the face, whether it's Daniel Garcia related or not.
Hey, I don't want any heat. I actually like these people. All the people that you're always like, yeah, fuck that dude. I'm always like, I like that.
Yes, exactly. Because I think I can get away with it because I think they all actually like me as well, and they know that I actually like them. So I can say fuck Sean Ross Sapp and fuck Bob O'Neill and fuck John Alba. All right,
I just
fuck
prefer
all
to be
three
like,
of them.
I like these guys, and they're like, oh, okay, cool, we like you too.
No, that's no fun. That's no fun. Fuck Alex McCarthy as well. All these guys. Jaychele, you know, I know you're a big advocate for Black wrestlers and just that in general when it comes to wrestling. What would you say is like the thing that is lacking the most when it comes to diversity in all of wrestling, whether it be wrestlers, whether it be backstage personality, whether it be like the education of it? Like, what would you say is lacking?
Well, I think there's two main things that come up in the documentary. One, I think, is lack of opportunities for Black talent, which could also be deemed as quotas, I guess. Certain companies or promotions putting a certain cap on how many wrestlers of color or Black wrestlers specifically they feel comfortable booking for a show, or even women sometimes. But I feel like the more Black-owned promotions that we see, that's actually one of my goals as well, is to create my own promotion eventually if I don't end up doing corporate work somewhere with diversity. But I would love to see more promotions within the community pop up and see them get more successful, because sometimes they lack support, which is incredibly disappointing. But I also think it's really important, like I said before, to get people who look like us backstage, even if it's managers, like just transitioning over to a smaller management role that's working with creative, making sure that these people of color or like people of marginalized identities in general are being advocated for and are being heard, because it could easily be the difference between wrestlers being perceived as stereotypes by creative versus them being them authentic selves and being able to connect authentically with Black culture, which also is incredibly marketable for them. If you look at wrestlers like Bianca and Swole and Willow and Tasha, they're all authentically themselves and they are doing great regardless of what company they are in. And it's very marketable, especially Bianca with her braid. That's an authentic piece of Black culture that the WWE is able to take advantage of and market. And there's a lot of braid sales.
Yeah, those are all really good points, because like I've said for a long time too that like kind of like the hip hop community kind of decides what's cool and what isn't in like culture, like a lot of the time. And I think a lot of that translates into wrestling too. Like when you see certain wrestlers doing certain stuff and act certain ways, you're like, yeah, that's really cool. Like they should like when I see Swerve out there, I'm like, he did like his presence and like his look and the whole vibe about him. It's just it's a little different, but it's really cool, and I think it draws people to that. Like, and I mean, he's not the only example. I can mention some. I mean, AJ Gray is probably my favorite wrestler on the Indies right now. He's way up there, and it's like you hear that Waka Flocka hit, and I'm from Atlanta, so I'm like, this is my music, my dude. Like, and I love watching him do his thing, and he brings a different kind of energy than a lot of other wrestlers do. I mean, so it's like. I think that's kind of undervalued too. And I think that was a good point you brought up, where I think kind of, once again, kind of like the hip hop community is really, really good about being really early on in trends that become really popular across the world. And they could implement that more into pro wrestling.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think that sometimes there's a disconnect between the way that people are presented, like on screen versus off screen. Like there's a bunch of wrestlers who I can think of that don't get to be themselves fully on screen, but like online, they're super cool and they're super intriguing and interesting, and their personalities are so captivating. But you don't get to see that on screen because of certain limitations.
Yeah. Well, I think it's safe to say that like throughout history, especially in like the WWE, I don't want to like single them out, but I mean, years, decades worth of like just, I mean, it is what it is. I think Jeremy would agree. I mean, how many just stereotypes and just grouping people together based on race versus like based on talent or anything other than race. And I think it has been a thing that's happened for a really, really long time. And I think it's good that that's changed more recently, but there's still a lot of work to be done. And I think that's why we need people like Jaychele out there who, are bringing positive change and bringing more diversity to this whole thing. So I think it's really good what y'all are doing.
Thank you.
I mean, I said it on the stream with Phil this week of, especially when it comes to WWE, they love using Black culture if it benefits white people, and not always if it benefits Black people. And that was a conversation Phil and I had on Fightful Overbooked this week. Jaychele, I want to get you out of here on this one. What's the coolest thing in your room?
Oh, my goal chart. Oh, it's so different now, but there used to be a bunch of slots filled in there, and it was like my AEW interviews and my Impact interviews, and those are all gone now because I did them. So
always good to take goals off of your goal chart, though.
Yes, tomorrow it needs to become a game sheet. I'm having game night with the late night grin tomorrow.
Oh, nice.
What games are you playing?
Oh, we're doing like Quizlemania style.
Ooh,
AEW
nice.
themed, yeah.
Ooh, okay. Did you already do the draft? I saw some stuff on Twitter.
Yes, I selected only Black people except for Julia Hart as my last pick.
Gotcha. Well, she's going to be House of Black soon, it looks like. So I'll kind of, sort of stretch there. House of Black, almost.
There we go. Yep.
Yeah.
That makes it even funnier. Oh my God. I love that. Yeah.
She's not in there yet, but it's pretty obvious, right? She's got to be joining the House of Black, right? All the signs are there.
Yeah, she has to.
Jaychele, again, the documentary is Wrestling with Whiteness. It premieres on your YouTube channel, which is Jaychele Nicole, right?
Yep.
Okay.
Simple.
All right. So everyone can go there. Everyone go follow her on Twitter. It premieres on May 28th. Check that out. Jaychele, any other last plugs you would like to throw out there?
Yeah, just check me out on Twitter. There is a link tree in my bio if you're interested in seeing some of my other work. I have stuff on Fightful Overbooked. It will be on the Fightful Roundtable coming up on Tuesday.
Yes.
I'm not very good with days. I know it as the 31st in my mind. So I'm very excited. Make sure to check me out over there. And yeah, just follow me on Twitter. All my information is there.
There you go. Everyone go support Jaychele. She's doing great work, again, with Wrestling with Whiteness and at latenightgrin.com. Guys, we appreciate it. Jaychele, we appreciate it. We'll be right back here on The Spotlight. We're back. Again, thank you to Jaychele for joining Jensen and I on the Creators Spotlight. Everyone go support her on Twitter and everywhere else that she does great work at. Guys, we thank you for joining us today. One final message. My heart goes out to everybody in Texas and all the families involved in the shooting at the elementary school. I don't know what the solution is. I personally believe it should be less guns, not more guns, but we've got to do a better job as a country to protect everyone, not just children, not just minorities, literally everyone in this country, because we should not be afraid to send our kids to school. We should not be afraid to go to the grocery store or go to concerts or go to music events. I would like for things to be fixed, and people in charge and in power need to take action against these things, because it keeps happening. There is a reason it keeps happening, despite everyone saying they want change and they want to do something, or it's not going to happen again. It continues to happen, and we've got to find a way to fix this, because I cannot watch my fiance and I cannot watch my friends be scared to send kids to school every day. It should not be like that at all. So I hope something changes. If you can do anything, whether it's voting, whether it's supporting the right people, please do what you can to help. But we need to change something in this country, because it is heartbreaking and it is sick that this goes on seemingly every single week. So I hope something changes. And again, if you can do anything to make a change, please do what you can to make any type of change. Guys, I appreciate the support. Jensen and I appreciate the support. You can go over to FightfulOverbooked.com. Bye, everyone.